Okay, this fiery crash that happened in LA is totally getting crazy. Let me tell you all about it. Good morning and welcome to Law and Life. I'm your lawyer, Patrick McGeehan, and I am your best friend at your worst time. And please, if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. 95% of my viewers are non-subscribers. So if you subscribe, you'll be my best friend. So this case is getting totally out of control. Times is reporting that Miss Linton, who is the driver pictured here, charged with 6 counts of murder and 5 counts of vehicular manslaughter with gross negligence in the fiery Los Angeles crash in the Windsor Hills section, was involved in 13 previous crashes in California and outside of California, and one in 2020 involved bodily injury. So this is good news for the prosecution in this type of case, and here's how I see the prosecution using it. Miss Linton has a bond review hearing coming up on August 15th. If I was the prosecution, I would argue that since she's had 13 of these crashes before, or been involved in 13 crashes, she recognized and she should have known that there was a problem, and maybe she should have stopped driving, maybe she should have gotten rid of her car, maybe she should have surrendered her driver's license. Now, the defense argues that she has profound mental health issues, but she's got to be lucid at some time. She's working as a nurse. So at some point, she's either under medication or under treatment for her mental health. And I would argue that she knew that she was a public danger. And if she's released on bond, any type of bond, she will continue to be a danger to the public because she shows a pattern of willing to drive after having this many crashes. So that's a really big development and a boost for the prosecution in this case, in my opinion. Further information that came out is that, she is a travel nurse from Texas. She was renting a room in Los Angeles while working, and a law enforcement source told the LA Times that the red light that she ran had been red for 9 seconds before the Mercedes that Miss Linton was driving barreled through the intersection, slamming into multiple cars. That's also important for the prosecution, and here's why. The prosecution is going to argue at the bond hearing, I'm sure, and in the case in chief, that she was approaching the intersection at this crazy rate of speed, visually estimated to be between 90 and 100 miles an hour, according to the prosecution. And she would be able to see the red light. And she continued at that speed, approaching the red light and into the intersection. And they're going to use that as an intent element, I'm sure. Some additional information, some pictures that are circulating on the internet shows Miss Linton, what's alleged to be Miss Linton, on the scene being treated by paramedics. She's in scrubs and she has some type of shirt with some type of name on the breastplate and sleeve. What I would look into if I was investigating this case is, where was she coming from? There's reports that she had an argument with her boyfriend beforehand, reports that she left the hospital or whatever. I would investigate that and find out where she was coming from. If she was coming from the hospital, what activities or what events happened at the hospital to cause her to get upset or get in whatever condition that she was in and leave? And was anybody at the hospital aware that she was in a dangerous or threatening type of condition where she may do harm to herself and others? So why is that important? That would be important in the civil liability aspect in this case. Was there anybody at the hospital that recognized, any medical professional who should have recognized that she was in a state of crisis and she should not leave or she should not be out on her own, that she was a danger to herself or others, and certainly that she should not be driving? So I would look into that very, very closely. Now, in this particular case, there's not enough insurance in the world to cover all the damages in this case. And I'm sure insurance in this case, no matter what type of policy Miss Linton and the other cars have, is not going to be anywhere sufficient to cover the deaths of the 6 people in this case. Further, the Los Angeles Times is reporting that the California Highway Patrol accident investigators are accessing the Mercedes computer. If you didn't know, there's an onboard computer in your car which records all kinds of data from the vehicle. Mercedes is a fairly sophisticated system. I was fortunate to be one of the first investigators in the country to use an automotive onboard computer to investigate a traffic death case back in 1996. I had a 1996 Chevrolet police car that was involved in a fatal collision. And back in those times, we didn't have the technology and the equipment to download the data, so we had to call Chevrolet engineers out to download the data for us, in which they did. A few years later, we had the first complete failure of a Cadillac North Star system. And we worked with engineers from Cadillac who came out and downloaded all the information from that computer so we could figure out why the system failed. Anyway, police nowadays have the software and the mechanical interfaces to download information from the computer. So what does it tell you? Well, in that computer is an accelerometer, and it can tell you what the speed of the vehicle was, all kinds of throttle position, light switch positions, whether lights are burnt out, what the gauges were reading at the time, just a whole host of information. And one of the most important aspects of information it can tell you is a delta V. And what a delta V is it's a change in velocity over time. So when the Mercedes enters the intersection and makes contact with the other vehicles, it experiences a delta V. The velocity from the impact is changed over a period of time, and that gives you an indication of what the speed was at the time of the collision and thereafter. And it continues to monitor all kinds of data, airbag deployment, and just everything that goes on in the vehicle, and it's a whole host of information that is very valuable to this type of investigation. So once again, Nicole Linton, travel nurse from Texas, is charged with 6 counts of murder, 5 counts of vehicular homicide with gross negligence, and if convicted, the maximum she faces life in prison. She is currently being held in a no bond status or a no bail status until August 15th, when they will have a bail review hearing, and the judge will decide then whether or not to set bail or to continue to hold her in a no bond status. Thanks for joining me here on The Law and Life. Once again, if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. You'll be my best friend. I'm your lawyer, Patrick McGeehan. I am your best friend at your worst time.